Hey everyone, this is a continuation of part 2 where we were recommending movies, so if you feel like you're missing any context and whatnot, then go back and start there. Yeah, don't show any of my movies to your kids.
Yes.
What?
It's the whole list, none of them. None of those movies, don't show them to your kids, unless you're cool. Like my parents. Then show them to your kids, but like only if you're cool.
And only with supervision. It's complicated.
I saw Starship Troopers as a child when I was like 7 in theaters.
That's fine. It's just bugs. That doesn't do much.
A lot of gore and nudity.
No, yeah.
I almost put that on the list because I saw it was on here. It was funny.
But Wall-E's beautiful. Have you guys watched it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have watched it because it's Disney, right? And Pixar.
Yeah.
So it's just I can't like. Honestly, it's one of my favorites.
Kind of follows that trend where a lot of Pixar movies make a left turn halfway through.
Yeah, that surprised me a lot.
Yep. Sometimes it improves the movie, and sometimes it ruins the movie, like Brave.
Brave had a lot of problems.
It starts so good.
It has a really good.
They
compelling
fucking
hook.
tricked me. I like, oh man, this is gonna be everything I want it to be, and then the thing happens, and it turns into a really not good movie, and it never recovers. It's such a bummer.
Yeah.
Wall-E also has a pretty strong left turn midway through the story, but it's
I think some people might
it's in
not
line
like
with
it.
its point.
Yeah, I think it definitely serves for the storyline. It needs to be there, but it might ruin the movie because it's so drastic as well.
It's a stylistic change where it becomes a different film, and that can be rough.
Yeah.
But in Brave's case, it stylistically changes the film, but it also thematically changes the film and stomps all over anything it was going for in the intro, and then ultimately it doesn't really accomplish much of anything. Trying to explain the arcs of the characters in Brave is challenging. It's a lot.
Something. I don't want to clean my room.
So it was directed by Mark Andrews. He did.
I suppose we loop back around now, huh?
Yep.
Sorry?
That's your turn.
Yep. So my next film is another British film full of actors that I don't recognize. So that's two similarities. It's also in the forest again. So this is Bad Times in the Forest Part 2. And also it's just like the last movie in that it came out in 2018 and is about 90 minutes long. So that's a lot of similarities to start with. And it also involves like roughing it in the woods and and friends with bad things. In this case, a group of friends are all going out on this hike that they had planned. They're doing this like not just hiking, but like those multi-day backpacking trips where you go on this really big excursion and you have to pack your supplies and you have those overstuffed backpacks that have like camping supplies and so on in them because you need to like set up camp every night, but then also carry it with you every day. And specifically, it's a plan that it's a hike that they wanted to take with their fifth friend who tragically died. And there's a particular dynamic where one person in the group blames himself for the death of their friend, and everyone else to varying degrees also blames him. So it's kind of this awkward tension with all these different characters where you kind of, as the story's developing, you kind of learn more and more about like what happened and what the issue there is, and how much everyone thinks that way about that character, but also you figure out the dynamic of the group and so on. So there's a lot of really good like dialogue interactions where we're just like dealing with these characters themselves. But then they're in a horror movie because midway through this hike, one of them hurts their leg and they can't really keep making the trip that way. So they decide to cut through the woods direct in like a straight line back to where they started, because they've essentially gotten halfway through their backpacking trip. So they'd have to do the entire second half, but massively slower with this injured guy, or they can try to cut straight through the woods in a straight line back to the lodge that they can see on the horizon. So they start going straight through the woods, and it's just this massive disorienting forest where you can't really see where you're going. and there's no real way to have a sense of direction and see how close you are to your destination and everything. And they just keep seeing increasingly unnerving things. And there's like it starts off with like these hints of like, did I see that or not, or like was that there? And then moments of like increasingly distressing moments happening to either them collectively or even them as individuals along the way. And the horror just kind of keeps building and building. And it's another thing where I don't recommend watching a trailer or doing any image.
I think I would say even pictures, because I'm looking at pictures.
Yeah,
and I
was gonna say, like, I wouldn't image search anything about this, because the first thing you'll get is massive spoilers, because all the images that would inevitably come up are like of the ending and major things like that. And it's like, it's really good. The whole thing works best if you haven't already seen stuff throughout it, because there's a lot of building and a lot of mystery, in part because you don't like it. The movie has you in a paranoid way scanning the tree line throughout the entire film.
That's beautiful.
Trying to figure out if something's around them, because every now and then you have a shot where you think you see something move, and it's just subtle enough that you're like, no, I swear there was something there. Like you're inhabiting the minds of the people themselves. And it's partly because a forest is such a chaotic environment compared to like sand dunes or whatever, that like there's the screen is so busy with details that it's so hard to lock on to something when it's there. You only see stuff in that sort of scene when it moves, and oftentimes when it moves is when it's leaving the frame. So you only briefly catch a glimpse of things as you're losing the ability to look at them, and it's like a frustrating and kind of terrifying thing. And the plans keep going wrong, and the trip keeps extending, and they keep getting longer. It keeps taking longer than they think it's going to, and they keep having to like spend the night in the forest, and they don't know how close they're getting, and things are getting more and more distressing, and it keeps escalating and escalating until it kind of gets fucking insane and has some of the coolest shots I've seen in a horror movie, and is just and I've rewatched it with different people a few times, and it's just I really enjoy going back to this film because it goes so well, and I'm really happy with where it goes. And it's just one of those things where it's like you just got to not look anything up about it, because you'll just dampen the chance to see some really cool shit in its intended context. This is a horror film.
It sounds like The Descent, which is incidentally also British, but it's not from a cinematographical perspective, but rather from the building of the tension.
Yeah. And it's based on Swedish folklore, I should say. So it's got some of that cultural context, like Year Walk, and a few of the other horror things I've played over the years. Yeah, some real good choices are made in that film. But yeah, it reminds me of
perfect horror movie for me, honestly.
Yeah. It just reminds me of like I had a Patreon question a while back that was like, what do you care about spoilers? Here's a paper I've linked that's like proves that spoilers like don't actually matter and so on. And I'm like, no.
I know that one.
Because I've seen films like this, and I'm like, no, there's certain forms of escalation and stuff where you can only really feel it correctly the first time without having been spoiled, and you have to like just see what the film does and how it presents it. And then every time you revisit it after that, you're kind of nostalgically dipping back into the well of what you first felt and remembering it again. And that's the only way to get it. So if you get spoiled before your first time, then there's like a certain way where you'll never experience it the correct way. And then your subsequent reviewings will also never be able to draw back to that original viewing and how you felt about it, because you never got to feel it correctly.
I think there's a certain level where the intellectual enjoyment of a movie, after you know how it goes, can be better than the original one, depending on your preferences as a person. Yeah. But like if you're a fan of suspense and that sort of tension and horror, like that, you can't give into the spoilers, because it's gonna ruin a lot of movies. It's I especially love like the ride of watching a movie and not knowing where it's going, but it's also not incoherent. No, yeah,
Like,
that's
just
very
that,
important.
that whole ride. Like, you can, like, there's the other aspect of like, oh yes, on an intellectual level, I really enjoy this movie and I respect its structure and so on. But like, that's not the same thing as viscerally experiencing its narrative first time around. Like, those are different experiences, and then they both can be preserved if you don't get spoiled.
It's like watching The Sixth Sense and knowing the spoiler. It's not, you just can't do it.
Yep.
Like, it's not the same.
Yeah,
and I did it, by the way. I watched Sixth Sense recently, like 3 or 4 years ago, and I did not know the spoiler. I can't believe I didn't.
Whoa. That's like one of the meme spoilers that people throw out as a joke.
I just later realized, oh, I might have heard that, but I never connected the dots.
Yeah.
Let's not say the spoiler, though.
I don't really have can't really make an opinion here because I watch movies in the worst way possible usually. So
While playing video games, while answering the phone, and eating.
No, if it's a movie that's in theaters, I'll look up the ending before I go.
Oh.
Because otherwise I'm wasting money. Like, I'm not going to pay money to go take a gamble on if a movie's going to be good or not.
That's an interesting way of doing it.
Andrew makes choices.
Yeah.
It's one of the many things where I can't relate to him. Specifically, the memory I have is being at his apartment, and he was telling me he was going to go watch Pacific Rim with Joe, and right before he left, he opened the Wikipedia page and read the entire plot of Pacific Rim before he saw the movie. Like, the choice to see it was already made, and he was going, and he still went, but he literally read the entire plot synopsis right before watching it, and I'm like, I do not.
I've done that.
This is not how I do anything.
So if I do that, it removes a lot of the anger that I'll have, which I would have had if I had not read that before watching Pacific Rim, because it was such a shitty movie, and I don't think I would have been nearly as amicable leaving the theater, unless I had already known.
If you didn't know already.
Happen. Yeah, because like
preheated.
That is the thing, is that Andrew approaches watching live action films like how many people approach paying their taxes. Like, it's like some sort of social obligation he's been backed into, and he's just going to try to get through it as painlessly as possible.
Yeah.
So
and he's not going to enjoy it.
Unless someone forces me, I will not of my own volition watch live action movies or shows. Like, it's not something I naturally do, because they never make me happy. So there's no, like, it's just not worth the effort.
That's a fair point.
And if I get mad at watching an anime, I feel justified because it helps me further see when a bad anime is going to happen. Whereas live action, it's always shit when it starts, and it doesn't help me get out of it because I know it's shit when it starts. But that's like, so with anime, it's different. It's only helping me when I watch bad anime, but it doesn't help me watch bad live action because I don't know what good live action is. So it's a corner that I can't get out of. I don't know. But yeah, so spoilers are, I don't regard spoilers nearly as severely as a lot of other people do. So someone's like ran up and told me the ending to something. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, it doesn't impede my watching of it. I had Gurren Lagann spoiled for me before I watched it. And I still got super excited over the ending. Cause
that is one of the ones that you really don't care about the spoilers, because it's all about like the
no, you do care about spoilers though. Like the ending, the ending works because you have no context for it. The point of it is that like you go in without any idea, and the show is over exceeding your expectations in a way that makes you excited for a fight. But like saying that means nothing. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I was like, for me, Gurren Lagann was more about, it's almost like a parody of the genre. There's a lot of it in it, and I thought that it was what that was from the beginning to end, and so the ending, like, is just a culmination of the parody.
Well, that's what I mean, though. If someone told you the ending of the parody, you don't, like, for most people, the joke is ruined. It's like saying the punchline before the joke happens.
I see.
And so like Gurren Lagann's about not knowing what the punchlines are to each joke it's making towards the franchise or towards the genre. So yeah, like I was told what the punchline was, and I still just like had the exact same reaction.
I thought it was really good
without knowing. But that's just, that's the way I regard spoilers. Like, it's not spoilers don't mean anything without the context to me. Like, I need to see it in order for the emotional weight to either hit or miss. So, like, you can tell me, you could tell me what the ending of, like, Sixth Sense is, and I'd be like, oh, okay. But if I watch it, I may not, like, I may be angry at it, or I may just be apathetic.
You're going to enjoy it just from the, like, cinematography, because I think there is it's so different. It's such a special twist.
Yeah, just saying,
it does change.
Saying something doesn't really do anything for me. Like, it doesn't.
But I think it is two movies. It's effectively two movies.
I guess the other thing too is the way that the way I interact with media is I spend most of the time trying to guess what's going to happen. So I spend a lot of it trying to, like, predict what's going to happen, because almost all media just most media is just a really poorly built house held up by crutches of tropes. And so you can kind of guess where most movies are going if you just go like, I see what that is. I see the trope you're calling, which means it's going to spiral into this type of ending, because that's the only reason you use this trope is because it results in this type of ending. Or, like, oh, that's going to be a thing later on because I've seen tons of movies that have done this thing, and that always turns into this reaction. Whereas it's very rare that people subvert the expectations, because subverting them is actually more interesting, and that's a hard thing to sell to a studio. They're like, hey, let's be interesting. They're like, that's another word for risky. Let's not do that. Just do the thing that always makes money. And so, I mean, anime does it all the time. You can look at you can watch an anime and be like, oh, okay, I see where we're going here. And so it's, I don't know. That's the way I approach media. But
so we have 3 movies left each. Let's try and make this a little bit faster. Otherwise, let's just go for quick fire.
All right. So the next one it doesn't need much explanation. I have Lupin the Third, The Castle of Cagliostro, which is
Lupin,
which is Miyazaki's debut film. So it's his
You
first.
mean the one from Dark Souls?
No, the other one, the family-friendly one. I know this guy. It's his directorial debut, and it's
the more famous good. Miyazaki.
Yeah, the arguably more famous Miyazaki.
I know his face better than his name.
The plot is it's a Lupin movie. I don't need to explain more about it. It's just if you know what Lupin is, you know what that means. And if you've never seen Lupin, it's just going to be a fun heist movie for you. So just enjoy it. I love Lupin the Third stuff, so I'm kind of biased here. But it's just it's a really fun movie. It has really great animation, really great character moments, and
it's a 40-year-old movie.
Yeah, Lupin the Third is really
it's older than all of us.
Yeah,
Andrew here with the classics.
Lupin the Third is a old franchise. The creator died recently, a few years ago.
79 years old.
Yeah, Monkey Punch. He's a good guy. But yeah,
he's called Monkey Punch.
Yeah, that's
81 actually.
I believe that's his author's name. Yeah, Monkey Punch. Yeah,
Monkey Punch. Yeah.
Huh.
That's his pen name.
Monkey Punchy. It's very important to pronounce it the Japanese way.
But yeah, he's what was he? You said 70?
81. Sorry, I misread.
81. Yeah,
he died a year and a half ago.
Yeah, he died.
2019.
I think he died right before the release of the newest Lupin the Third movie, which is impressive that they're still making new ones. And it's been like, it's almost been several decades now. But yeah,
some things just stick around forever like that.
Well,
Doctor Who and James Bond.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like Lupin the Third can live. He lives in this timeless era. Like, it doesn't matter where you put Lupin, it makes sense. And his crew, like, none of it. Like, okay, I guess Goemon is the only one that's kind of weird to have the further time goes by, because it's like a samurai. What is that? Why? But everyone else is timeless as well. They're just like cool guys in suits, or, spy girl or spy guy. you can throw them in any era and it works. And that's why Lupin just continues to be relevant, is because you can just change the setting, keep the characters, and it's still good. Like, yeah, I don't know how to explain it very well, but the characters in Lupin are really good, and they're good enough that they can be in any situation, any type of plot, and it's fun. Unless you want to get like really, really dark with it, and then you have like the story of Mini Fujiko, which it's okay, but it's also a really rough ride to sell anybody. But yeah, so that's
Fujiko's Lie.
Yeah, that one's not as good. There are some other.
I'm just looking at the.
Yeah,
names.
No, it was like a small series that was a backstory for Mini Fujiko, but it's kind of the same backstory that you would see for like Black Widow from Avengers, where you're like, huh? You want to run by that again, but like less stupid? And then you're like, no, let's not. We'll just skip over it now. It's like, okay, good call. Yeah, that's the idea.
So it's kind of funny that you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Black Widow was the one who had like the really dumb backstory of like, I was an orphan and we lived in an orphanage where they took our wombs out or something. I'm like, what? What are you talking about?
Yeah, she's like, I'm a monster because I can't have children. And I'm like,
yeah, that's so Mini Fujiko's the same kind of way, and you're just kind of like, all right, we're just gonna bury this one in the backyard, and we'll keep moving. We'll keep moving on here,
along with the rest of the other one's problematic movies.
Yeah, it's just So your next.
So it's kind of funny that you suggested a movie from 1979. I am also going to suggest a movie from 1979, which is one of my favorites as well. It's called Alien. You might have heard of it. We talked about it sort of before. The original Alien, I feel, is a horror movie, and it's so like you can tell that for me the appeal of it is how well directed and well organized it is. The setting and the characters, the actors, everybody is so natural and it's so immersive. It's amazing. It's such an old movie, but it works so well. And it's done on such a small budget, and it's one of the most influential movies of all time.
Yep.
And it holds up to this day. It's I love it. I love it to bits. And I can't recommend it enough. If you've never watched a classic, when I say it's classic horror, for me it is a classic, but it doesn't feel like a classic. If it came out as a remake today, just with more money spent at it, and exactly the same shots, exactly the same characters, exactly the same actors, I would be all over it because
they hide the alien enough that it usually doesn't overtly look like an awkward guy in a suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Alien 2 suffered from that.
It is funny that we were just talking about Blade Runner, because that's just his next movie.
Oh, it's the same. That's right. It's the same director.
That's Ridley Scott. He made Alien, Blade Runner, and Gladiator, and then bad movies. Oh no, he made Black Hawk Down. But yeah, then he made Prometheus and The Martian. That's
Prometheus is so bad.
Yep, and The Martian.
I liked The Martian. It was kind of fun. But Alien is just good on every front. And to follow with what I was talking about, it's also anti-capitalism and anti-corporate and political in nature.
Yeah, the entire Alien universe is very cyberpunk feeling, and the whole very much anti-corporate behavior, and Blade Runner follows in that. But he made two like anti-capitalist movies back to back. The second of which is the most influential, arguably the most single influential piece of art in the entire cyberpunk universe, which is based entirely around being anti-corporate. Like it's the text of its entire. That's the entirety of what cyberpunk is as a universe and as a setting and a tone. Like that's, if it's not about the evil corpse that you got to take out, then what is it?
Yeah. I'm playing Deus Ex Human Revolution. Yep. And I don't think the writers know what they're doing.
The Shadowrun games definitely know that the corporations are a problem.
They know. Yeah, but I don't think the new Deus Ex know.
Yeah.
I'm going through some parts.
This whole year is me just fingers crossed, like just kind of worrying, because I know I've got to cover it. I know it's going to be really popular, so it's not even going to be a lesser known game. But Cyberpunk's coming out, and boy,
they also don't know.
It'll be a real bummer if they put that out and they just fundamentally don't understand the setting that they're doing.
I can tell you right now. They can use the language, but it's one thing to use the language. But, well, maybe they'll surprise us.
They won't surprise you.
I don't think they will. Sorry, Keith.
Maybe they'll take 3 tries to make the good one again.
Oh, yeah,
like they did it with The Witcher.
I don't think they're going to have 3 chances.
I mean, I'm sure it'll sell well, and they're a disgustingly successful company at this point. So they'll probably have Cyberpunk sequels.
Yeah, probably. I'll wait for the Game of the Year edition.
Unless they get bought out.
At least the Roadbreaker was fun.
I still need to play that. I have it, but
fun card game.
By the way, we said Ridley Scott. Excuse me, Sir Ridley Scott. He's got an HBE or something.
I'm American. These don't mean things to me.
It shouldn't mean anything to anybody, but still.
Oh yeah, the Queen tapped you. Have fun, I guess. That's nice. The only Sir I honor is Sir Patrick Stewart, who's in my next movie, The Green Room.
Yay!
Not The Green Room, it's just called Green Room. In this movie, Patrick Stewart is a neo-Nazi.
Oh no, what is going on with the world? That sounds like an interesting thing.
Time for our third entry in Bad Times in the Forest.
All of our movies have themes.
Yeah, this movie was I thought at the time that it was the final Anton Yelchin movie, but then more Anton Yelchin movies kept coming out for years after his death, so I was wrong. He was busy, I guess. But Anton Yelchin, unfortunately, died tragically, and then this was the first 2 movies that he was in that came out after his death, I think, were Star Trek Beyond and Green Room, which I saw like kind of back to back. And he's really good in this, and Patrick Stewart's really good in this, and also like that is kind of a weird loop to close because obviously Patrick Stewart's a Star Trek actor too, and so on, and there's this whole circle there. But this is a movie where you follow this like hardcore punk band that's living. They're living in a car, and I haven't rewatched it super recently, so I'm slightly grasping here, but they're living in a car and they're traveling and doing their touring and just kind of getting any gigs they can, basically. It shows them literally like siphoning gas out of other people's cars to keep their vehicle running because that's like how thin the whole thing is. And you get some nice scenes sort of establishing the group and letting them like interact, and you meet them all better, and you care about the individual characters and all that. And funnily enough, the girl from to call back to a previous discussion again, the freckle-faced girl from Arrested Development is in this. That's one of the band members. And so they go to a particular gig that's full of skinheads, which is a somewhat popular audience for these kinds of punk bands. So they kind of just go through it, and it's like they're slightly uncomfortable with the setting and so on, but they kind of just do their show and try to rock their faces and get their money and then move on with their lives as they tend to do. But then in the green room, which is the back room where the talent generally gets ready in a lot of these settings backstage, they witness a murder.
Ooh.
And they weren't really supposed to witness that murder. It becomes a situation where they're like, we can't have witnesses for this thing that happened. So like immediately the band is like, we're fucked. Like this, they have a read on the situation. Like this is obviously like we weren't supposed to see this, and this is very bad for us. They lock themselves in the green room, and the skinhead people that run the place, they call their boss in to handle the situation and figure out what he wants them to do. And so Patrick Stewart arrives, and so it's a movie about Patrick Stewart and his army of skinheads trying to get into a room and kill everyone in it, more or less.
That is a setup and a half. My God.
Yeah. And a bunch of messy plans happen constantly on both ends, and things constantly don't go as planned, and there's a number of deaths, and they're very abrupt and brutal and not dwelled upon, and everything's like very clinical and distressing in the way that it isn't like dramatized when it happens. Like people just die, and then the movie just keeps going, and it's a hell of a ride. It's a very good movie. And it's also very not feel good. But it really stuck with me, and it was a great time. And pretty decent final movie, at least as I thought at the time, for Anton Yelchin. And it made me really bummed out that he was not around anymore, because like I would like to see more shit like this, please.
He's a main actor?
Yeah, he's the lead actor in Green Room. He played the Russian guy in Star Trek. I'm trying to remember his name. I'm not a big original saga name. He's the one that...
the Davik?
No.
Let me see if I can open
He's the go-to joke character, like that where they get all the pronunciation
Chekhov.
jokes. Yeah, Chekhov. Yeah. So you got like the Wazer rifles and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. He always sounds like he's saying "wascally wabbit" about a bunch of things, because that's like an accent joke that they stick to with him, because I think he's supposed to be Russian or something along those lines. And there's like there's a consonant swap going on. And that there's like references to that in like a lot of like Fallout games and so on, where you go into in Fallout 3, you go into the little lamplight and get the Wazer rifle, stuff like that.
He's Russian though, Russian born anyway.
Yeah, and he's great. He's great, and he's dead, and it's a real bummer.
Oh,
like, yeah. It was a fucked up death. I think he was like checking his mail or something, and his car came out of park and like came back after him down the driveway. And like crushed him against his like a brick wall or the mailbox or some sort of solid thing, and it's just like it was just a random tragic accident one day that just got rid of him. And it's like, fuck, that's really fucked up. There's just nothing fair about that situation. Yeah, the Green Room is very good. Also, don't watch it with your kids unless you're cool.
Okay,
even if you're cool. I don't know about this one.
Yeah,
it sounds like it's gonna be,
and it's
promising,
and it's past the spoiler milestone, but it is a Bad Times in the Forest movie. As much as it sounds like it takes place in one room, it is a Bad Times in the Forest movie. There's a theme here. It's accidental. It's maybe speaks to a weird aspect of my taste, where I like dark, violent films or black comedies that take place in a forest. Like, I almost had Tucker and Dale versus Evil on this list, but I cut it, and that's also a black comedy in the forest.
Wow, you really do have this forest.
Yeah,
it's this genre. It's like a whole thing.
My three I've said aren't comedies yet, but the next two will be. But they're also dark because they're not. It's not The Hangover. Like I specifically like movies that are funny but aren't comedies, if you know what I mean. Like it's not about like setting up jokes constantly, but it's just that there's a sense of humor interwoven into the whole thing, and the next two will be that, but they will still be dark and death in a forest. Yay. Colonel after me? Is that our order?
Andrew. It's Andrew.
Andrew's after me?
Yep.
For the last one.
It's me.
Nope.
Is it the last one?
We have two to go.
Yeah, we have two more.
Oh, I skipped one. It's fine. We have two to go. Yes.
So the next one I've got is Violet Evergarden, Eternity, and the Auto Memory Doll, which is so you can watch the series before watching the movie, and I don't feel like it actually helps you in any way. I don't think that, like, I don't mean the movie's confusing. I mean that the movie, the characters in the movie don't require you to have seen the series to feel anything for. Like, there's no build up over the course of a show to make it work. There's only, so that's, it's a really good, it's hard to explain this movie just because a lot of it is just in the moment emotional stuff. But the idea is basically a woman in a position of, like, you know, being forced to go to a boarding school where she has to, you know, learn to be a prim and proper person so she can then go be married off to some rich fancy person who brokers a deal with whomever, whatever, you know, how weird like forced marriages work. And so the idea is that she wants to write a letter to an adoptive sister of hers and send it to her, but she doesn't know what to say or how to do that. And that ends up becoming the focal point of the story, is a communication between two sisters who can't ever interact with each other because of difference in status and stuff. But yeah, it's a beautiful looking movie. It has a lot of emotion, but mostly just really stunning visuals.
The algorithms got you.
What do you mean?
When you said the Garden movie earlier, I typed that into Netflix, and right next to it were a silent voice and Violet Evergarden. So I was like, oh, you're saying the other name that I just was on the screen.
That makes sense. There's a lot of
like a type.
Yeah, it's a type of movie. They're like all emotional. All the good movies, all the good anime movies are emotional movies, because otherwise they're like really shitty tie-in brand movies, like a One Piece movie. It's like, you're not gonna watch that. It means nothing. It's not canonical, and it's just shit.
But there's different types of emotions. There's this sort of, and then there's Grave of Fireflies.
Grave of Fireflies is, I mean,
it's also very emotional, except just makes you feel bad, and then it's
Grave
bad.
of Fireflies is weird because it is Grave of Fireflies is like watching an American military movie where you want to be sympathetic, but also these people did really horrible things.
That's what I say.
So it's really like Grave of Fireflies is a tough.
It's brutal.
I mean, there's a reason that when it came out in theaters, it was a dual showing where they showed Grave of the Fireflies and then Totoro, because they didn't want to leave you on that level.
It's like when I would watch Lion King as a kid to calm down after a different movie.
Exactly.
Jesus
like that. They literally were like, yeah, okay, we're gonna talk about really sad stuff, but Cat Bus isn't that adorable? And you're like, yay!
Yeah, it's also a short movie. I mean, you need to juxtapose it to something, unless it's just going to be a small.
What's going on?
I googled Grave of Fireflies.
Spoilers all over.
And I got a body horror image.
Oh no!
It looks like it's bad. What kind of movie is this?
It doesn't have that. I mean,
what do you mean body horror?
Maybe it's an maybe it's an article. Up. Maybe it's a thing where like it's coming up as a search result because it's an article about Grave of Fireflies, but it's an image from something else. It's got a guy shoving his hand up under the jaw of a woman's face into her skin, and then you can see all of his fingers under her skin across her face.
I don't remember that. That doesn't sound familiar to me. I think I would remember that.
I think it must be an unrelated horror image. I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Because it's like, what a fucking visual.
That's not great.
Oh, that's Paprika.
Oh, that's Paprika. Okay.
That's a wholly different movie.
Yeah. It's an article. It's an article. It's an article that says how Grave of Fireflies changed your perception of war, and that's the image, and that's in the search results for Grave of Fireflies.
That is very scary.
Paprika's also a good movie. I would recommend watching that. But yeah, that is not Grave of the Fireflies. I'm sorry.
No, even the art style is different.
Just no context seeing that image. I'm like, this is horrifying, and also maybe I should buy a print for Stephanie.
I was trying to think. I was like, man, that's
like a type of image that she would hang on her wall.
Oh God, oof. Paprika's got a lot of them. Then. I'm trying to think, like, was there any... No, there's no, like, body horror. There's some, like, upsetting to look at visuals, but
there's,
not, like, body horror.
War violence.
Yeah, there's somebody that got burned.
I would say, I don't know, like,
there's a split here where I've seen 0 of the movies you're recommending and 100% of the movies that Colonel's recommending.
Well, we could all see that coming. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm not,
Who knows? Maybe you've seen my last movie.
I know what your last movie is. I have not.
Exactly.
I see the list, and I've definitely not seen these movies.
Oh.
So, the next one for me. Can we advance or?
Yep. Yeah, go for
it. So I was introduced to this style of science fiction by an anime series called Planets, which is my favorite anime series of all time. and it's hard sci-fi. So it's a little bit like The Martian that we talked about before, where like it's science fiction, but it tries to be as realistic as possible and as grounded as possible in our reality. And this movie is called Moon. It's from 2009, and it's not available on Netflix. But I think it's available on Hulu, said Keith before.
Did you lose him, Andrew?
Sorry, a little bit.
Did you experience that?
Yeah.
That whole sentence just went away.
Yeah, my internet has been having trouble. So basically, it's Moon from 2009.
Okay.
And it's not available on Netflix, but Keith said it was available on Hulu.
Yeah, it's on Hulu and Amazon. You can rent it from
Okay, there we go. So yeah, you can find it somewhere. And it's a short movie. It's also a very low budget. Well, it's not very low. It's got $5 million budget, but still. It's also a British movie. We're all very focused on British movies, aren't we?
There's some cool stuff in there. It feels like a fun discovery half the time because you're like, oh, no one's mentioned this.
And what this movie is...
They made something in that country besides Doctor Who and 007?
They have so many good movies.
Yeah, the third thing in England.
Oh no, don't talk about that one. Let's not talk about that.
I just mean Sherlock Holmes as an IP, not that specific show. There's always like 4 parallel shows existing at once.
That's true
because it's open to public domain.
So Moon is a hard sci-fi style of it's basically a thriller, but it's only with one person for a long part of the movie. And it's about somebody who is working on an energy station on the moon. And they're there by themselves for like 2 or 3 years. So it's also very contemplative and very
anti-corporate.
It's also anti-corporate, but I'm not going to say why, otherwise it spoils it.
Yeah.
And it's got some really interesting ideas about the future of energy. So it also deals with the energy crisis. And at the end, it's got an interesting twist that will make you question the morals of a future where humanity is spread out across the universe. It's also it's got a very weird ending in the sense that it just cuts to tell you what happens at the end. And so when you see that, that's where I think the low budget shows the most. But I think it doesn't really ruin the movie or anything. It's just, I think it's a brilliant movie because it's so hard sci-fi.
Solid performance from Sam Rockwell. Pretty much only turns in solid performances. He's just great in everything.
Yeah, I absolutely enjoyed his acting. He's basically the only actor for so long.
It's a lonely movie. I like ship in a bottle movies.
Oh, that's what that's called.
Yeah.
It's like a single concept, and you just,
Yeah,
it's like Saw,
it's like when you have those like constructed pirate ships inside of a glass bottle. Like the idea of that genre name. I used to keep a list of like a lot of these ones I liked because there's a lot of really good ones, and I often like films that force the characters to stay in one location and just deal with each other basically or themselves.
Yeah. So it's my favorite sci-fi movie. No, wait, it's not, because that's Alien. But if we're talking about serious sci-fi, that's this
Alien
one.
Serious?
Alien is very serious, but it's also it's got an alien that
it's just
has
horror, which
mouths.
we're conditioned to see as the least legitimate genre.
Yeah, you can tell that the authors of any horror movie are just having way too much fun with their job.
Yeah,
half the time. It must be so fun making a horror movie, honestly.
Probably, yeah.
What is
so? Yeah,
I don't know what the process there is. Like, I guess
it's unfortunate that everything from this director is very disappointing.
From Duncan Jones.
Yeah, it gets real rough after Moon. Source Code was like,
he made Warcraft.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
He made Warcraft, which was horrible by most counts, and Source Code, which was fine but forgettable. And I have not heard good things about Mute either. It's like, oh man, the guy that made Moon.
I mean, it's about the movies, not about the. Oh, he didn't. He wrote the story.
There's just a thing,
not necessarily the day-to-day or the storyboarding.
He directed Moon.
Yeah, directed, but the storyboarding might not be by him. Because the storyboarding is so important for the pacing of movies and just how well they feel. Screenplay, that's the word. Nathan Parker.
I'll
There's
take your word for it.
It's just
just looking at the
whenever
wiki.
whenever you have a really cool, creative, interesting movie, you always like put a pin in it. If you're like me at least, or you're like, I want to keep a track on this particular director and see how this turns out. And oftentimes it pays off really well, but it didn't with Duncan Jones. I was not psyched. It did with Ryan Johnson. Holy shit! Because I noticed him when he made what's it called, the Bruce Willis movie.
I don't know.
Fuck. One where Joseph Gordon-Levitt is playing Bruce Willis. Looper. There we go.
Oh, Looper is so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
I watched Looper and I was like, ooh, keep an eye on this guy. And that's why I was really excited about The Last Jedi when I was otherwise really tepid, because Force Awakens was so blah that it was like this is fine. It's like, okay, this is my new state of being, where Star Wars is just going to be like Marvel, where a new one comes out every few years and it's fine. And you're like, I don't regret sitting in the theater, but also I don't want to watch it again. But then Last Jedi changed that for me, and it was great. And then Knives Out came out, and it was even fucking better. And it's like, fuck, every movie I watch by this guy's better than the last one. So now I'm like, this is like, that's when it pays off. Like, Knives Out is such a fucking great movie.
You're not recommending it today, though.
No.
It's your turn.
Because it's completely arbitrary. But
Yes.
my list was originally under the original premise of Netflix movies, but then I changed one of them to not be a Netflix movie when it was revealed that
I am a betrayer.
that Colonel RPGs is just a list of movies, basically.
Sorry.
But everyone knows about Knives Out already.
Yeah.
Whereas
I never watched it, but I've heard it many times. You talk about it all the time.
I lean towards movies that I generally don't think people have seen for my list. So I cut a few things specifically because they were... Like, I cut Snowpiercer, and I cut a few other things that I thought too many people have seen. Nightcrawler. All of these are grim movies.
Yeah, you have a really...
They didn't take place in forest, though, so they weren't good enough.
Snowpiercer does it?
No, Snowpiercer takes place in a train.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Oh, that one. I know that movie.
That's the entire premise of the movie.
Sorry, yep, you're right.
It's a train that's the last of humanity. Snowpiercer is great. I just watched it like a couple weeks ago again. Is it my turn again?
Yes.
My next movie is a movie that we hinted at last episode called I Can't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. It's a long title. And it was on my mind in part because its title is lyrics. I Can't Feel at Home in This World Anymore is a song. And it's like an old country tune thing. And specifically, it was in my mind because I've been playing Kentucky Route Zero. And Kentucky Route Zero is full of countless literary references, and it's clearly made by very well-read people. It's Kentucky Route Zero is dense in a way that I can never properly appreciate, both because I don't have the context and because I'm bad at sourcing some of the stuff. So I was happy that Noah Caldwell-Gervais made a video about Kentucky Route Zero, and he's the kind of person that's very adept at making that kind of breakdown. And everyone needs to watch that channel all the time, basically. Noah, he's really good. Do you know about him already, Colonel?
Yeah.
Yeah, solid channel.
I've followed him since you suggested him in the other. Yeah.
And I had him part of my motivation to finish the game was because I wanted to watch his video on it because it was sitting there in my backlog. I'm like, I can't watch it yet though because I gotta finish it. But yeah, every among other things, every episode of that game has a song that plays that's a cover of various country hymns, and one of them is "I Can't Feel at Home in this World Anymore," and it's a good slow cover where a lot of them are actually kind of like in this ironic, jaunty tune, despite how grim the lyrics are. As given by the title, and in a weird way that kind of like matches that weird contrast of weird playfulness crossed with the grimness of it all. The movie I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore is a dark comedy featuring Elijah Wood and an actress that I don't previously know.
Melanie Linsky.
There we go. I was like, I'm on the image search page, as I often am when I talk about these things. And I'm like, none of these movie posters say actors' names. Fuck, there's one.
I got you
Yeah.
back. She's very prolific though.
Is she?
Does a lot of stuff. Yeah, she's been acting since '98 recurrently. So
God damn.
yeah.
Because it was otherwise one of those films again where it's like I don't necessarily have faces that are jumping out at me. Like I'm not. It's not like Green. It's not like Green Room where I'm like, oh, it's the two Star Trek people are going to fight it out, and the Arrested Development girl's also here. Like I'm not like the only person I recognize in this movie is Elijah Wood, which is inescapable because I watched so much Lord of the Rings growing up. I watched that trilogy over and over and over.
Oh,
like
she's
it was
also
a
New
problem.
Zealand. She's also from New Zealand.
Yeah.
That might be why you don't know her from anywhere else.
But so you're introduced to this nurse, and she's incredibly relatable because she's just kind of just getting through her life, going through her like chores and her errands and her job, and kind of like maintaining this sort of neutral mood where like adversity and just shitty moments kind of crop up, but you kind of just bulldoze through them, and maybe there's like the little hint of hope here and there, and she's kind of just getting through shit. Like it's really new. It's really like minor scenes, like her walking in a parking lot, and then a car starts backing out, but then the car stops because they see her, but then she stops because they were backing out, and they keep like in this having this stalemate of who's gonna go. Like they both keep starting moving over and over again, but they keep stopping. That kind of shit. Or like you see like somebody grab a bag of candy at the store, and then another bag of candy falls on the floor, and they just walk away and ignore it, but then she picks it up and puts it on the shelf. Like little things like this. There's a lot of like weird scenes where they're strange to explain, but in the moment they're all like they're strangely endearing, but also like every moment of this movie is bizarrely like entertaining, just kind of watching it play out, and like the weird minor interactions they're choosing to express in this film as they're setting up this character. But like basically you just keep having this build up of her day as just another shitty thing kind of keeps happening, and some of them are subtle and just kind of the things that slowly wear you down. Some of them are even just her watching shitty people that she's not interacting with, and it's just kind of this building thing of just contextualizing her outlook towards people in general and how she feels about the stuff. Like she literally is in a room with a patient who is just having this horrible racist rant and then dies midway through her racist rant, like just passes away. And then like it cuts to her with like the family, and then being like, well, did she have any last words? And she just stares back, and then it cuts away to the next scene because her last words were horrible. Like all these different things. But she gets home and her house has been robbed.
Oof.
And this is kind of like this moment where it kind of breaks for her. Or more specifically, she calls the police. They come in and they do the checkup, and they kind of blame her for the robbery a little bit. And also there's not particularly any real indication they're going to actually do anything about it, which is more or less realistic, because when you have a burglary, like generally speaking, not a lot happens. They come in, and it's like the TSA with airports. Like it's mostly security theater. Like it's all this performance that they give you to make you feel safer. So they'll come in and they'll look around and they'll take notes and they'll talk to you about what happened, and you'll probably never see any of your shit again, and they'll probably not even put that many resources into trying to find the person that attacked your place.
The best case scenario is if they find somebody who robs a bunch of stuff, they might give you back some of the stuff.
Like if somebody's on a huge tear, then is super sloppy, they might eventually get caught. But in many cases, like a lot of crime, the vast majority of crimes in the United States are just never solved across pretty much all categories. And so it really is like a theatrics of just kind of performing this idea that they're totally going to do something, and you can feel better now and go back to your daily life. And hope you were insured.
Defund the police. Defund the police.
You're just gonna be like, I hope I had enough insurance to pay for this thing, because it's not coming back. But she's bothered by this because she's frustrated by
her shit stolen.
Yeah, she's frustrated by how nothing's happening. She's frustrated by this, like the violation of having her house broken into, and like the how that feels for people. And also the fact that one of the things that was taken, like the stuff that's taken is stuff that people generally like. It's hard to convey to anyone else why you would care about it, because it's like it was her laptop, some medications, and her like her silver set, but it was specifically her grandmother's silver set. It's like she has like flashes to her grandmother and stuff whenever she kind of interacts with that set and so on, and like it's like stuff that they're trying to convey that's important to her, but it's the kind of item that it's really hard to convince people matters, and it's also irreplaceable. Like insurance doesn't pay for getting your grandmother's like silver set back who passed away and everything. So she kind of has this like snapping moment where and it happens specifically with Elijah Wood, where his dog shits on her grass, and instead of just quietly ignoring everything, she literally like takes a newspaper and bundles up the shit and throws it at him in the street. And they have like a confrontation and so on. And it's like, this is the beginning of her kind of striking back at the world and like not just quietly accepting the way that everyone's just shit all the time. And that the movie's been kind of building at.
Is it a cathartic movie?
No.
No. Because it sounds like it's setting up to be like so
it's
nice.
just pain.
Yeah, no, it's if anything, it's a deconstruction of that kind of film where somebody just says, fuck it, I'm gonna go take down society and show them how wrong they are. Because she keeps like going through the steps of trying to track down the people. Like she takes it upon herself to like do her own forensic evidence and track down the people who stole her house and like confront what's going on and like taking all the steps she can to do things. And literally every time it never goes like the way that it would in a movie. Basically, it's always like approached the way that these things realistically work and how stolen property realistically circulates through society, and the kind of confrontations you have if you're just a person with no authority that just goes at people and so on. And Elijah Wood, after an initial confrontation, actually joins her, and like because they're the two people on the movie poster, like they're the ones kind of going through this all, and it just keeps escalating, and it keeps getting grimmer, and it does a lot of abrupt violence and so on, and it's every single scene is entertaining in part because you don't go in knowing how it'll end, and it's there's a realism to it that's distressing in many of the scenes, and it specifically is sort of like this anti-movie tone to some of it. That's one hell of a ride. I rewatched it right before this podcast. Like I just finished it like 20 minutes before we started recording, and I had a great time again. It's just a really, really good movie, and it's another one that I just kind of found on Netflix. I think it's framed as like a Netflix original or something, but like I just clicked on it one day and didn't know what I was getting myself into, but the title kind of made me think I might know what I was getting myself into, and it's a really good dark comedy. I've only described like the first 20 minutes of it. It's a
Netflix original.
It's
at
good.
Least it's distributed by them.
It is some good shit. Yeah, Netflix original is a very foggy term because in many cases it means that a movie was made in its entirety and then just kind of was getting released, and in every region a different person owns it. And so like Netflix, like in this region we own the distribution for it. And so we're gonna call it a Netflix original. I'm like, is it though? But yeah, I don't feel at home in this world anymore was good shit. And unlike the other movies on this list, it's actually funny. But also it's not a comedy. It's not. There's a lot of cute things and a lot of moments to laugh, but it's not a feel-good movie. Which I guess is not. I guess the title kind of spoils that, doesn't it?
It's not what we're here for. It's not feel good. I don't think we've done.
Yeah.
WALL-E is a feel good though. Yeah, WALL-E is a feel good. And Lupin as well.
Yeah. All right, so Andrew, wrap it up. What's your last one?
Last one is Children of the Sea. It's. Yeah, I mean it's not like overly emotional. It's just a really fun fantasy story about a girl whose parents own an aquarium, and two boys who were raised by what were they? Can't remember which I can't remember what animal. But anyways, they're like kids that are raised by the ocean, more or less. And they come to the aquarium, and it's just about like what you'd expect, kind of like the sea is beautiful and precious. Please don't stop like shitting in it, kind of thing, kind of movie.
So it is a feel-good movie. We got another one.
It is kind of feel good, but I don't think
Gross.
it's the same. It's not the same level of like emotions as the other ones are, except for Lupin, which is just fun.
Are you seeing the one with the teeth, Keith?
No.
No.
The
What?
deep sea one?
Yeah, there's like a scene with a shark with so many teeth.
Yeah, there's some really weird shaped sharks out there. Like a deep sea
that.
one in a part of the ocean that has like no light, and it's got like a bizarre like saw blade on its face, which I believe is a real shark. Very
Yeah, I think so.
off-putting, bizarre real shark. Sharks are weird.
I mean, sharks are.
There's like deep sea
Sharks are
sharks that
weird.
don't have sight.
It's an old movie, isn't it? Though.
There's like parasites that go in their eyes and destroy them, but then they just live that way.
How old is it?
Yeah, I guess shark health insurance just hasn't reached its
it's a new
peak
one.
yet.
Dude, they don't need health insurance. They should have healthcare provided.
I mean,
to
they
them.
literally do. They have a parasite that ruins their eyes, and they just live with it. That is a need for that is a need for
They
healthcare.
need healthcare, not insurance.
I mean,
So those are
who's
two
going to
different
pay for
things.
their healthcare?
They don't they pay
What, the
taxes?
shark government? There's no shark government.
So they just need to organize.
Yeah, so it's easier to just have insurance if you just don't have a government to fall back to.
The sharks are extremely underpaid. They get a bad rap.
I mean, it probably doesn't help that they're not very collaborative with even fellow sharks.
Yeah, they're very solitary creatures, aren't they?
Right. I mean, when you're kind of built to murder pretty much anything that swims, it's probably really hard to make
That's
friends
an
that
unfair
way.
characterization of sharks. Some of them are just sweetie pies. They
They
just want to eat plankton. There's a lot of sharks that only eat like the little microbes.
Yeah.
I mean,
You got
Like
your
a few.
basking
I'll
sharks
see.
and whatnot. Basking sharks look terrifying, though.
Let me look it up.
yeah, I still think I would pet a basking shark.
I wouldn't bet anything in the sea, to be honest.
I mean, they just
Oh
have
my God,
they
they
just
are.
have like an abyss in their face. It's terrifying. Imagine that swimming towards you.
yeah, and you can see their bones inside that thing.
No, those are just their gills.
Oh, they're gill. Okay, but it looks like
Yeah,
bones,
it's the
though.
gills.
Yeah, it's just them filter feeding. That'd be a weird place for them to have a rib cage, the inside of their mouth.
I don't know. Look at them. Anything is possible. It's magic.
Yeah, basking sharks just swim around with their mouth wide open, and their mouth is a giant funnel, so it looks like this death hole. And it's just, if you got issues with the ocean, the idea of that coming at you is the worst thought.
Oh, they're probably just
I-
really shy. It's like, oh, there's somebody over there. I don't want.
They
They're
look,
gonna take pictures
they
of
look
me.
hilarious when their mouth closes because they're dumb shaped.
I appreciate the complexity of the ocean because we can't go there. Like, and life in the ocean can kind of just have fun with itself because we can't really do anything about it. We can't like stop sharks.
We can
from
murder them all
existing.
through the
It is
pollution
so
of the
hard to
oceans.
wipe out a species without like just literally destroying the ocean. Like,
Yeah,
just
that's what we're
Yeah, I was
poisoning
gonna say like we're mostly just doing it on accident.
But that's what I mean. Like, we can't, but like with animals that are on land, we can't like, you don't
Yeah.
have a deer that has a gaping mouth like that runs and eats plants because that would be unacceptable. We would wipe it out from the planet immediately. Could you imagine? You go to the forest and you just see this deer with like a giant mouth running and absorbing plants
Yeah.
in a nearby radius. You'd be like, murder it.
No more
wipe
forest.
its entire its entire kind out.
It is straight up the equivalent of like a child running around with a butterfly net, but a shark's face is that, and it's just
Yes.
catching whatever falls in.
And they do look very silly when
Yeah.
they close their mouths.
It's alarming. Yeah.
And they're also enormous creatures. These ones that we're talking about.
Oh yeah, basking
They're
sharks
really,
are
really
massive.
big. Yeah.
Then you have whale sharks and so on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're big. They're big boys. But yeah,
And girls.
there's something about I don't know. Are there shark girls? I've never met one. Shark girls.
I don't see no boobs. What is this?
Yeah. I think it's like a
That's how you
ocean
tell?
conspiracy. There's I don't know. I always see like pictures of fish in the water. I'm like, man, these are just getting real crazy. And then you look at land animals, like, yeah, you guys have been pretty consistent for a long time. I think we stopped.
You and
stopped
your
letting
legs.
you guys be. Yeah, well, we kind of stopped letting animals be fun with their evolution because we just wipe them all out.
You have to look.
But
you
fish-
have to look closer at land animals to see how weird some of them are.
Yeah, like birds are another one that are kind of have a lot more free range to evolve because
Like hyenas. Like hyenas at first glance, you're like, yeah,
God.
whatever. It's just like another that. Then you look closer and you study it for a while, and you're like, I'm sorry, fucking what? How do you work? What the fuck?
You mean your legs are...
Wait, what's wrong?
What?
You're breaking
They're
every
ba-
rule.
Their hind legs are phenomenal.
I mean, for
wrong with
among other
hyenas?
things, the female hyena gives birth out of a penis.
Oh, I've
What?
heard of this thing.
Yeah, it's like I said, a lot of
It's
land
not
animals
quite
are
a
just
penis,
way
it's an
weirder when
inverted-
you look at them up close.
Yeah. Also, hyenas are super cute.
Or like the way the duck penises like just inflate inside the female as a corkscrew.
Well, that's
Like,
There's
yeah, I mean,
surprisingly many.
there's
birds
a lot of-
birds are
There's a lot
weird.
of weird, terrifying shit on land. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but they're not like physically terrifying. They're
Or
just
like deer, when you start realizing like the horns grow back every year, and they always grow back with velvet. So every year they de-velvet, which is when all the skin just kind of comes off eventually. Like all the fuzzy skin just sheds bloodily, and they just have like this crown of gore on top of their head until it falls off.
Oh my god, it must be so creepy.
Like there's so much weird shit. It's like
I don't know.
Well, I think my next suggestion is going to be also a feel-good movie, except it's not. But it is because it's The Lord of the Rings, and it's the best trilogy of movies ever made, and make something better, but also it's the best.
I've watched Fellowship of the Ring so many times.
What's your favorite? Which one is your favorite of the three?
It's probably Fellowship. I think,
What about you, Andrew?
I think wars are often the least interesting part of a story, and that one doesn't have any.
Yeah,
It's just the party of
Yeah.
adventurers traveling, and you've got Mines of Moria, you've got the big confrontation with the Uruk-hai at the end of the film, and so on. Like it has a lot of the best beats of the entire series, but no Gollum.
yeah.
That's the selling
that's
point of the
only a
sequels
plus.
is they have Gollum.
That's only a plus.
I think Fellowship's probably my favorite too. I think it gets a little bit too. I think if my
Stretched.
memory serves, the last two start requiring me to like have a lot of care about battles that I don't care about. Whereas like the beginning is this fun little like cute quest where it's like,
Yeah.
we're gonna go save the world. It's like, oh, that's adorable. You're gonna go save the world. And then like the
Yeah.
other two movies are like, this was a bad idea. Fuck the world. It's like, okay, well, I kind of like the beginning where there's a grandpa with a pipe. Like,
I agree. I think my favorite is the first one, although I wish it was even better. There's some things that I like. It could be better, but then again, the second and the
yeah, I
third.
wish they had more
there's-
spiders.
No, the spider, not the spiders.
Spider is supposed to be in the second movie.
No, wait, the spider is not in the first one. Yeah.
I know.
So
More
for-
spiders.
Wait, second
so
or third?
everybody
I
knows
forget.
Lord of the Rings.
Wherever the spider is, it's wrong. They moved the spider in the story.
Yeah,
I think
spider
it
is in-
shows up in the third, but it was supposed to be in the second.
Yeah, because it's in the
Uh,
second book, but it is in the third. Movie.
Yeah, because it's them. They walk through the forest in the second book, but in the third movie, they're like, okay, now we're going through a forest. It's like, wait, what? How?
The
What?
thing is, what they did is that in the books, the distance between, like, since Frodo getting into Moria and actually reaching the destination, in the books it's very, very long. In the movie, it's very short. So they cut a bunch of parts there. There's a bunch of character development as well in the books that doesn't make it to the movie.
Yeah, they're long books.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the books, but I think, like, I can understand people shying away, people who have never watched Lord of the Rings shying away from it, because it's just so, it's the typical fantasy setting, and it's Lord of the Rings. Like, I don't need to watch it; I can absorb it through cultural osmosis, because that's another thing. I really like them because they were.
I think The Fellowship is one of the best movies ever, but that might be just.
I think they're just so well
favoritism.
made. They're just like from a cinematography perspective and from writing perspective, they're really well made, really well acted as well. edited, just fantastic.
The Fellowship also has the highlight of being the most similar to the Hobbit.
Oh, the Hobbit.
Because you have the band of adventurers and they're being stalked by a foe and they have their mission and everything, and it's not about this big global war and so on yet. Like I think of like one of the most impactful scenes that haunts me to this day in cinema is them all hiding underneath the roots as the wraiths are looking for them, and like that like moments like that are just so burned into my brain. And the sequels are kind of just like those were good. But it's not full of these things that are like seared into my mind.
The first one is amazing.
And they came out only 1 year apart, so it's probably not an age thing.
Yeah, and especially because it's been so long, it's not like I've rewatched them many times, but I agree with you. The first one has just so many moments that are really good. And unlike the second and the third, there's not really that many
like
places
Scary
where
Elf Lady.
It slows down. Scary Elf Lady, yeah.
Visit her at her little pool and she gets scared for a moment.
Moria for me is the best part. It's just like self-contained.
Fly, you fools.
It's so good. It's just so good. Moria is the best part.
Just
of the
whole
trilogy.
ratcheting, the continually ratcheted tension during the entire staircase scene that eventually has the Balrog in it and everything. It's just so much. It's such a good scene from front to back.
It's so good. Absolutely. And it benefits from not having the whole team dispersed, which is the problem with the second and the third movie. It doesn't really spoil it, but it's still, because people are sort of spread out, it makes it a lot more difficult to follow.
The whole cast is together in the first movie, and they're never together again.
Yeah. So my takeaway from Lord of the Rings is that, first off, Samwise Gamgee, he's the main character. And so that's the thing. And it's a movie.
They dedicate a whole scene just to the fact that he's about to go further than he's ever gone from home. Here it is, right in this line. You're the furthest I've ever gone from the Shire.
Sam and Parvati are the two best characters in fiction ever. And
Parvati?
That's them too. Yeah. Parvati is like, when you analyze her, she's fantastic.
Who's Parvati?
From The Outer Worlds.
Oh,
not the Hindu goddess or Avatar.
Who the fuck cares about Parvati from Harry Potter?
Oh, I don't know. No, let's not talk about that.
The fucking 75th most important character in the books.
No. I'm talking fiction as a whole.
It's the only other time I've seen that name.
And The Lord of the Rings as a trilogy is a movie about, and without spoilers, but although who cares at this point, but still, it's a sequence of movies and books about how nothing is ever going to be the same. Movies and fiction make this story about you fighting against a great evil, or maybe not. It's not that great, but it's still an evil, or just some bad things. And you want things to go back to what they were, or to just sort of get some justice, or fix a wrong. But Lord of the Rings is about that's not really going to happen, but it doesn't mean that things can't get better. And speeches like Sam's.
Do things get better in Lord of the Rings?
If you read the books, it gets a little bit more obvious that they do, but the movies, I think, really drive that point home. Like the whole, you never get that ending of everything is fixed, but it doesn't mean that they don't achieve their goals.
Like a very unnecessary amount of people died in Lord of the Rings.
But what I mean is, it doesn't mean that the world that comes after can't be good as well, and that is a lesson that sort of formed my understanding of fiction, because I read the books when I was like 16, 17.
I feel like it depends on who you ask. I think the elves were having a pretty chill time without any of this weird human war going on, and the dwarves just didn't know what problems existed until they finally came outside.
Like, canonically speaking, the elves weren't having a good time. And they
dealt with the orcs, but that's about it. Like,
they were at war. They were at war with Sauron in the northeast. This is like lore.
Is that the orcs?
Stuff. No. So Sauron, who gets retroactively added to the Mirkwood. Is it Mirkwood? It's the forest that they go through in The Hobbit. Originally, it was a necromancer, and the whole elf kingdom of the forests in the east they were at war with that necromancer, the spiders and all that. That was like a big mess. And that's the reason why Lorien is where it is. I think Galadriel had to flee where she was, if I'm not mistaken. Because I think the big introduction to Lorien, or is it Lorien? Loriath? What is it called?
I genuinely don't know.
Yeah, this is like super lore stuff.
Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
much.
to get into that.
Like, from the show when it starts, everyone seems to be besides humans, everyone else seems to be kind of having a pretty chill life. Like, they're all just hanging out and not doing much. And then
the movies don't really paint that. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's like, let's do a quest, and this quest like just murders so many people, and it's like, goddamn.
Yeah. The books really go into detail about that. So
no one could just like summon, like, Gandalf can't just use this stupid goddamn bird to fly to a volcano and just shoot an arrow with the ring attached to it into the lava pit. Just make this easier.
Do you know that speech that Sam has on top of the in that city in the Ungoliant? I think no, it's not Ungoliant. Down in south, when Frodo is like, "I want to give up. I don't know what we're doing this for," and then Sam has this speech, the one about why should we continue fighting? Do you know that speech?
Yeah, I remember the speech.
I think for me, that's the Lord of the Rings in a nutshell. That's the whole theme of the whole everything. It's that thing. And like, you're going to lose so much stuff and so many things that don't go right and people that die needlessly. But, you know, that doesn't mean that the future can't be good as well. And I like, yeah, that's Lord of the Rings for me.
It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo, the ones that really mattered, full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end, because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, the shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it will shine out clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you. That meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had a lot of chances of turning back, only they didn't, because they were holding on to something. That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo, and it's worth fighting for.
It's so great.
It's a really good speech.
I love that. It's awesome.
I can see how it would sway people.
And I think it's like the thematic nucleus of the everything, and that's why I think Sam is one of the best characters ever.
That was a way better speech in that movie.
There is?
Yeah.
Which one?
Now we wish to catch a fish so juicy sweet.
That's a great acting moment. That's different.
It certainly was a blockbuster speech.
Yeah. So that's it. That's my movies. That's my recommendations.
It's a pretty solid list.
All right. My final one is another Bad Times in the Forest movie. It got canceled, and then uncanceled, and then recanceled, kind of, and then it came out eventually, and they finally were just like, fuck it. Like, the advertising campaign was just judge it for yourself. Just make up your own mind, because like the controversy about its existence was the entire narrative about it. So its entire slogan and branding and advertising and poster just became about the idea of like, it's the movie everyone's mad at. Would you like to? Yeah, there it is. I found it. It's like, it just says decide for yourself. It's one of the posters,
and they scribble over the previous date and just go March 13. It's not September.
Yeah, it got condemned by the president, and then there was a whole media circuit all being mad at it, and it got canceled and pushed back. It eventually came out 6 months after its originally planned date, and then on top of that, the virus happened. So I think when it even at its delayed time, it then had to come out as an on-demand movie because it couldn't go to theaters at that point. So it just hardship after hardship. And then finally, my curiosity got the better of me, and I watched it, not really expecting much, honestly. But it was great. So we're talking about The Hunt, which eventually came out in 2020. It's one of those times where the declared year, because you always identify movies by the year they come out in, so you can clarify, changed because of all this shit. It's fucking great. It's a really solid film, and I tested it again. So I went to rewatch it, and I brought Stephanie along, and then she loved it too. And it's just solid all around. It's such a cool film. The premise is that a bunch of people, they all wake up in a field, basically in the middle of the forest, and they start getting shot by unseen people. And people keep whispering about this idea that there's these evil rich liberals that capture people, and they go hunt them on their estate that they have at so and so and so on. Like there's this a conservative conspiracy is that's goes around a lot, is this particular idea. And so they're talking about like this is the hunt that you guys hear about, like it's like Hunger Games or whatever. But it's just bizarrely funny, like in every both like on the liberal side and the conservative side and so on. Like a lot of these different characters are just incredible in how they're written, and there's so many moments there's a lot of moments where like things just get said that just confirm certain things, and you're just ready for it. Like, okay, here it comes. Like, so I have a podcast, and like, fuck this guy. Like, there's so many moments where the writing is so fucking sharp, and it's so fucking funny all the way through. And it's really is one of those things where it is just decide for yourself. Like that really being the final, like, I give up slogan at the end, because it's such an interesting film, and it has so many things to do that are way more clever than anything anyone's really ready to give it credit for. And if you're on board for my general movie choices and this kind of like mix of dark humor and violence and so on, it really goes places. And it's almost impossible to talk about, in part because even the opening is incredibly clever, so I can't talk about how the movie starts really either. Like, it's a wreck, me talking about this movie. I can't. Every scene, if you want to talk about movies where it all coherently makes sense structure-wise, but while I'm watching it, I have no fucking clue what's going to happen from scene to scene, The Hunt is that movie, because I had no idea what was going to happen continuously, and it was just a fucking ride. And don't watch a single thing about it. In some ways, the fucking cover of the movie is a spoiler, which is a bummer. Like, it's a wreck.
I saw it.
It's a wreck. Everything, like, it's...
I saw the cover.
There's so much clever, interesting shit going on from the first minute of the movie that even the movie poster is kind of a spoiler if you see certain versions of it.
It seems like it's a movie that's very much aimed for people who are tuned into modern day politics in the United States.
To some extent, yeah.
Is this a joke on fox hunting? Is that the idea?
It's a movie that's practically designed to be prejudged. I do really love about this other poster that just says the most talked about movie of the year is one that's no one's actually seen. That's just the fucking movie's advertisement about itself, and it's accurate because so many people keep sounding off with opinions of this movie, but like nobody knows what it is. I had a great day because I had a double feature where I watched The Hunt and Invisible Man back to back, and I'm like, fuck, these movies are like fucking flawless. Like, they're fantastic. What a way to end 2020, because as we all know, the 2020 cinematic year ended in like February. And then movies died forever and they're never coming back. So yeah. But my final movie going experience was technically on demand, but I was like, oh, I guess movies are dead now. But I watched.
You might want to also specify. Yeah. Okay. No, I specified by the year. Sorry.
Yeah. But as 2020 was winding down immediately and movies looked doomed, I watched The Hunt and Invisible Man back to back, and what a great fucking night. And I recommend The Hunt in particular because Invisible Man it's great too, but it gets a fair amount of recommendations. But like, I only heard about The Hunt during the controversies that happened when it got canceled and so on. Like I heard about it like 8 months before it came out, but I never heard about it when it actually came out. and I don't think anyone really watched it. And I've definitely seen people not like it, which happens.
It made its money back, apparently.
But the people that don't like it are people who I think have very boring movie taste. So if you think you're vibing with me, then you should see this film.
Hot takes.
Well,
yeah,
you know what it's
even...
like. There's certain people in your life where if they like a movie, you're like, oh yeah. But then there's other people in your life where if they like a movie, you're like, I don't want to watch that movie now because they like it. They only like really boring, shitty movies, and they hate all the really interesting films.
That's all my friends.
You have that.
Every one of them.
Yeah, you have a different movie relationship with everyone in your life, and so on.
Yeah.
Including that, that's what this is. Like, we have such different lists, and the audience has to figure out what they think to do about those.
Yeah, I've never even heard of this movie.
Yeah, the lead actress, which I can't even say who they are because that's also a spoiler. But yes, it's you just looking at anything about this movie spoils stuff that the movie makers clearly didn't want spoiled. It's frustrating.
Yeah, like this film,
like every single
DVD
movie
cover.
Yeah,
I have closed the page.
I hate it. I hate it. Every poster of this movie should be the pig.
Oh, the pig is not the spoiler.
No.
Oh, okay.
The cover of this movie should just be the pig and the hunt, and that's it. Because everything else is kind of already giving away shit about this movie that is clever. And it's kind of a bummer. But yeah, like this lead actress, I did not know her, and she's so fucking good. And there's so many nuances to her performance that are so fun to watch, and and it adds to the kind of mystery of what the fuck's going on with certain aspects. But also, like, sometimes just if you have a really fun to watch main character that has that surprises you in certain ways along the way and makes the whole thing a ride, that can be a lot of fun. And this one pulls serious weight, and it stands up to rewatching because I've already rewatched it. I've rewatched most of these movies.
I think that's very important. I can tell when I'm watching a movie and I know that it's not going to be fun on a rewatch. It spoils my first watch. Yeah, because it's like
I talk about no spoilers and go into this as blind as possible with a bunch of these movies, but they also stand up to rewatches. It's just that you can get the strongest viewing experience not knowing a lot of the stuff that's going to happen and going in as blind as possible. And then afterwards, I think you both structurally respect the film, and you experience it in a different way the second time around, and it's cool, but you also get to dip back into your memories of how you reacted the first time. So it's like a good first viewing of a film adds to subsequent viewings, I think. And The Hunt is a ride. I'm bummed out that no one talks about it except for when they were mad at it for having never seen it before a year ago.
To be fair,
to
be fair, nobody talks about anything this year. This year is such a weird thing for understanding where the public is. It's
pardon me. I watched the Sonic movie. It was the greatest movie of all time. If you go outside, it's the only movie you see advertisements for still. So it must have been the only good movie.
People are just dumb motherfuckers.
I mean,
they really are. The controversy was it was the conservative circuit circulating this idea that this is a movie where it's about liberals hunting conservatives, and if this was the other way around, it would be so bad and blah 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 blah. And I'm sorry, did you see the premise of this movie and think that the hunters were the good guys in the movie? Have you seen any movie ever?
Yeah, look, if someone has a gun and they're killing people, they must be the good guys.
Generally speaking, if you're doing the most dangerous game is man and stuff like that, generally speaking, almost every narrative is framed from the underdog's perspective. You know that, right?
They're the sort of people that look at the Indiana Jones and the Covenant of the Lost Ark and they say Indiana Jones is an anti-hero. No.
I'm just so confused by the anger because they just assumed by default in a particular direction. I'm just like, what the fuck? I also just dig this whole Blumhouse thing where they just keep publishing kind of risky films that are low budget, and it obviously works for them. I think Blumhouse also did Us and Get Out, and they also did The Purge, and they also did Invisible Man. Like that was a Blumhouse double feature when I watched them both back to back. Like they put out some really cool shit as an incident of their kind of like shotgun approach to publishing movies.
That I think that's really healthy for the genre, or for any genre, really.
It's the better way to make movies than making like $300 million movies that have to be workshopped and have to fit every possible demographic and not have gay people in it because that's going to scare away China or whatever.
From an artistic perspective, but also from a monetary perspective.
Does China like The Hunt?
I think The Hunt might be incoherent in China.
Can they relate to it? Is it like
The Hunt is a very American movie?
How do you make The Hunt relatable on an international level?
Yeah, that probably is a tricky thing to sell to a big.
It's not.
For a big
it's
budget.
not tricky. You don't need to.
It doesn't.
You don't need to make media for everybody. You can make media just for one person.
No. But what I mean is like Disney is never going to make The Hunt.
Well, Disney barely makes their own movies anymore.
That's true.
Yeah, Disney only makes things that are offensive on accident.
Yeah.
But is it on accident?
Yes. Disney literally only works to make itself as consumer friendly as possible, and if any time it isn't, it's a misstep. Every like breath they take is to make more money by being favorable in the eyes of a consumer.
But think about it like this: if it's polemic, then it gets advertisement for free.
Disney doesn't like bad advertisement. They don't believe in the idea that like
That's true,
all advertisements good advertisements. Yeah. They don't buy that.
That's a good
shit.
point.
Also, it's not true.
No, it worked for certain things. I mean, you have Trump in the White House.
That's not a bad press is good press type thing. That's just that's what happens when you culminate decades of poor education and conspiracy theories into one giant cesspool of a human.
Attention, like, whatever it is, it's so important.
That's definitely the QAnon side.
Yeah, like it's not that bad press is not. It's not that all press is good press. It's that like bad press
it kind of is, though. Yeah, the media circuit was very much willing to just give him all the time he wanted and give him endless attention, and that just made. Yeah. If you just see somebody enough, press. I'm saying like if you just see somebody enough, even if you're covering them negatively, which they often were, just the constant coverage projects the idea that this is a person to be taken seriously.
There's actual studies that establish correlations between the amount of coverage candidates get and how many votes they get. It's like proportional. Well, and of course, correlation is not causation, but
we're never getting out of this hellhole.
It's why every time there's a debate, everyone talks about how many seconds each one got to talk.
Yeah,
because that's half of the fight. Is just how much can you fight for time during the debate? Because
when we're talking about movies, like it's even worse it's even more important because people don't see the movie in the coverage. They want to see whatever.
All elements of public opinion are almost entirely superficial, weird, nonsensical things that are completely tangential to what people are saying during the debates and so on. Like that's for the actual debates. They always talk about how well composed somebody was, or like public opinion always correlates with how long each person got screen time, basically. And like they have all these fucking Ben Shapiro debates where he's talking down to somebody from a stage, so he inherently looks like he's winning no matter what, and he can say the most asinine, nonsensical arguments that don't even address what the person said that he's debating, but he always looks like he won. Like it doesn't matter what anyone says during debates; they're bullshit. It's theatrics.
Reassuring.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully
nobody's as smart as they think they are. We're fucked.
Hopefully Europe will
but a lot of people are smarter than Ben Shapiro.
It's super relatable if you're not from if you're anywhere but the United States.
Yeah.
If you're in the United States, The Hunt apparently is a bad movie that only pushes
did you find like regional reviews of the movie or something?
No, I'm just like looking at all the press coverage and it's just like, I can't believe they're condoning violence. I'm like, what the fuck do you think Pearl Harbor was? You think Pearl Harbor was like oh no, we should never do war? Or was it like, fuck Japan? Like
Saving Private Ryan, just people being like, oh no, they should have tried to reason with the Nazis.
It's weird to argue this when it's by
I'm not equating this to The Hunt. Sorry.
It's also weird to argue this. Like, all the press coverage is like, wow, this is really unacceptable. When these people made The Purge, a movie about hunting people on one day of the year where it's legal.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck, idiots? What did you think the movie was gonna be about? Like, God.
It's from the same, it's essentially the same subgenre of the other franchise that Blumhouse is known for, but they like suddenly forgot what the plot of The Purge was and can't possibly comprehend like what side the audience might be rooting for in the film and so on.
Jesus
like what?
Christ.
You mean we don't cheer for the elites that are gunning people down? Weird.
That's
You've blown my mind.
Yeah.
I guess I'm wrong about The Hunt, said no one ever.
It feels.
That's an interesting thing to say about a movie.
It's seriously weird to look at controversy.
Well, it's because no one changes their
people.
mind ever.
Yeah,
No,
because
that's
the make
true,
up your
too.
mind and stick with it situation.
I don't know. It's a fucking movie. Just don't watch it if you don't like it. God. I mean, I hate Transformers, but I'm not gonna write like a 300-page thing about how this is destroying the fabric of discourse in America, and I can't believe that Optimus Prime is allowed to have a sword. Like, think of all the samurai that are offended that Optimus Prime has a fucking 20-foot sword and they can never own one. Like, shut the fuck up. This is
And even then, that would be
a lot of this is like, this is ridiculous. It's like it's saying that some people don't deserve to have same rights as other people. It's like, that's not what this movie clearly is about at all. What are you have you seen the movie?
Andrew,
what's your argument?
people complain about the vagina bones in the game
Those
cover
are
art
important.
thing.
Like,
The
those
vagina
need to be
bones, not the vagina bones.
there. They have to be there. How else do you know if it's human?
How else
Do you know what I'm talking about?
if it's human?
Do you know what I'm talking about?
You're talking about Tsubasa and Tokyo Mirage Sessions.
I think so, yes. And there's like a change in the cover from Japan to.
Wait a second.
Well,
This
it was
movie did-
she does a music video where she has an open midriff, and they remove like lines from her character model in the US version of the game because she had like the V going on, and it was
and
they just
somebody
decided
complained
not to
that
have it.
they removed or they censored her vagina bones.
They said it in the most distressing possible way.
Yes.
when they said that they censored the vagina bones, and it's like
That's nothing how that any of that works.
I want to point out, by the way, that the Hunt made more money outside of the U.S.,
That's
which means that I guess Europe can relate to Americans killing each other.
they're just watching us constantly anyway.
yeah.
I mean, there's a constant all eyes on the U.S. situation where people are like, please don't burn it down, please don't burn it down, please don't burn it down.
I wonder if they're watching and they're like, oh, now I understand America a lot better now. Thank you, Hunt, for coming out.
God.
Like,
I need to watch The Hunt.
it makes
I
so
need to-
much more sense. It's just people killing each other. That's it. Like, that's all it is. That's all the damn country
the
is.
American documentary, The Hunt.
I mean,
and the soundtrack by what's his name? The Gambino?
Childish Gambino?
Childish Gambino. Soundtrack Childish Gambino. This is
Is it-
America and The Hunt, and that's it.
Oh, I thought you were saying its
That's
soundtrack
the
is by
perception.
Childish Gambino. I'm like, what?
No. I'm saying like that would be our perception of America.
Yeah.
That's a good song though, like from a lyric
It's a good music
perspective
video.
and from a song. Yeah, the end video.
where
Yeah,
to make the
absolutely.
most? Oh, it doesn't tell me.
I think he
Try to see it,
retired
like-
that character.
Probably.
The Childish Gambino or the
Yeah.
music video? Oh,
It probably served its purpose.
Because that was a... God, who's that guy? It's Donald Glover.
oh right.
Yeah.
I think he's. I think he said he was done with Childish Gambino, or at least that's what Stephanie told me. That'll be the end of that. If he makes more music in the future, it'll be like a different thing or something.
We're kind of going back to the same subject we kind of started with, talking about Rage Against the Machine and stuff. Oh, he's also a comedian.
Yeah, yeah, he was from
Yeah.
Community.
Yeah, Donald Glover's a comedian.
Yep, plays a lot of comedy
Right.
characters. He's in Georgia, Atlanta. Not Georgia. Atlanta's in Georgia. He's in the show Atlanta. He was in the show Community for a long time. 30 Rock.
Those are very American sitcoms that they don't get a lot of coverage here in Europe, as far as I know, anyway. Atlanta might. I've heard of Atlanta a bunch of times.
Got some ties to Spider-Man.
He has the smoothest eyebrows. His eyebrows are like, look at that.
And he also played Lando Calrissian in the Solo movie.
Oh yeah, he did. Poor guy.
In that good Star Wars movie.
God.
Very good.
Oh god.
Guy.
He also played Simba in the Lion King remake. Oh god.
Poor guy. God, he's getting the worst roles.
Can
Holy
catch a break.
shit.
Those are some fucking roles.
Yeah, what happened? I would fire my fucking
I mean, I'm sure he made money.
Oh yeah.
Still,
That's all that matters.
I would still be like, man, you're not helping me get new jobs though.
He also has an ongoing connection to Spider-Man. Like
Does he?
Yeah, because he plays Miles Morales in the Ultimate Spider-Man show.
Oh, that's why I know his face from.
And I think that might be why he. I think that might have been a nod to that. Might have been why they put him in Spider-Man: Homecoming. Just has like one scene. He's the guy that gets webbed to the car. But he's like,
it's like a cameo.
He has a name that people found significant that set up the idea that he might be a future villain.
Oh,
Because he has like the name of a Spider-Man villain. So it's like, are they planting the idea of Donald Glover being like the third movie's villain, or the fourth movie's villain, or the 12th movie's villain? Because nothing will die.
I'll watch one before I die. One superhero movie.
Guardians of the Galaxy, or Harley Quinn.
I'll let them pile up, and I'll choose one in the next few decades.
Most of everything else is just bleh. It's just like it's there. It's an entertaining way to spend a couple hours, but you'll forget it quickly.
Yeah,
But the Guardians series deals with themes, and Harley Quinn's just really entertaining.
I would probably recommend watching. Which one was it? Crap, I can't remember what year it
We're
was.
bad at recommendations today.
We've recommended like 30 movies.
Yeah, we recommend a lot of movies.
We did.
Crap, which one was it? No, not
I don't
that
know.
one.
Is
Damn
it a
it.
Spider-Man movie?
I'm trying to.
Is it a Wolverine movie?
the two heroes.
The two heroes?
That's the ones I know.
The Spooderman and the huge jacked man.
That's what it was. 1977, The Incredible Hulk. That's probably the only comic book movie you need to watch, and you'll be done.
His favorite hero's the Hulk.
I actually watched that one, and I kind of liked it. It's also with a good
fun.
a good
That with
actor.
Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah. Oops, I didn't mean to do whatever I just did. Okay, that's fine.
I didn't say that right. His name's like melded together into one name. I don't even.
No, it's Lou Ferrigno.
If I try to think about it too much, I can't tell you what his name even is.
It's Lou Ferrig. Ferringing? Or something like that, yeah. You can Google Translate it, I don't know.
I typed Hulk and then L, and then autocomplete to Hulk Lou Ferrigno. So his first name is Lou.
Yeah, Lou Ferrigno.
It just flows together as like Lou Ferrigno, and when I think about it, I'm like, wait, how do you break that down? What's his actual name?
But yeah, that's a fun that's a fun comic book movie. The rest of them are all just
like, who names their baby Lufer?
Lufer.
You know, that's a
He's got
surname
kind of
and
a
half.
Lufer face.
Make sure
He does
when you're
have a
taking your
loofah face,
shower,
though.
make sure you wash your back with your loofah.
He does have a very Lufer face, though.
Sounds like
Look at
that
him,
sounds like
look at
something
him.
you can meme in the like
I would be
2020s.
if he heard me say this, I would be running away. Though
I mean, yeah, he could like break your back with his bare hands. He's a giant
Yes.
man, but he's also a really good Hulk. Mostly because he can actually rip shirts himself, which is pretty impressive.
without his hands, most likely.
Well, like
'Cause he can just flex.
I'm not expecting like Mark Rubio to rip a shirt. Like he's not gonna do
Mark
that.
Rubio?
Whatever
Mark
his
Rubio?
name is. Ruben?
The one that I
What the fuck is that guy's name? The guy who played Hulk in the new
Mark
one.
Ruffalo.
Ruffalo? There you go. Whatever. Some Mark. Some stupid Mark. I don't remember. There's like a million of them. There's like Mark Wahlberg, Mark Ruffalo.
Oh,
Marco
Rubio. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Now people are just imagining this Republican senator just tearing out of his clothes.
He probably couldn't. That's what I'm saying. He can't do it. He's too fucking weak. He just sit there like tearing, like.
He is too weak to be senator.
I mean,
throw him away.
Why do you think the Hulk is CGI? Because the only strong men can't play Hulk anymore.
Well, they also wanted to make him actually Hulk-sized, which no human can be.
Also,
sure
Ruffalo is not a
you
very...
just got to make everyone else tiny compared to that human model.
You just got to use forced perspective for the entire cinematic universe. Like
that'd be so weird.
Like in Lord of the Rings.
I would love that. I would love that.
That'd be so
much.
convoluted so fast. Imagine like a fist fight that's forced perspective, so they're like 20 feet apart from each other, punching at each other.
I love the idea that he would be like Mark Ruffalo standing on a box, and he's like, like 20 feet away, but standing on a box, so he has like the higher ground, and you have like Tony Stark, what is his name?
Tony Stark, I suppose.
No, what's his real name though? What's the actor's name? I don't remember his name now.
Elon Musk?
No.
It's not, I know. Isn't that the meme though?
Tony Stark's actually intelligent. He's an inventor.
Fair point.
He does things.
Fair point.
What's your name? Robert Downey Jr. Yeah, I'm imagining Robert Downey Jr. is like laying on the ground, like putting his back really arched up so it looks like he's standing from the camera's perspective, which is also laying on the ground, looking behind him, just so we can get this like perfect perspective size of a full-size Hulk.
The problem with forced perspective is the size of the head, I feel. Because it just doesn't...
You can just increase it in post. Just make it really big. Bigger than his body. So that way people are questioning, like, wait, is it...
No, that's not... That's the opposite. It's the opposite you need to do. It needs to be smaller. If it's going to be bigger, the head needs to be smaller.
Anyways, every video game should have big head mode because it's 2020 and I'm not accepting this crap anymore where everybody looks realistic. Come on, man.
And also, I need help shooting Lucio.
That too, yeah. That too.
Give him a giant head.
Give him a... Audio medic!
And with that, I think we reached the 3-hour mark.
Yep, yes. that was a lot. This one was a lot too much. Mm-hmm. My God.
Next time we won't do a list because apparently that takes way too long to get through.
No, we just do 3 movies and we can do 3 hours again, but just with 3 movies.
I'll just cut it into 2 episodes.
Are you really going to cut it this one?
I might. I think it might be almost 4 hours long.
It's 3.5 hours, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot. I might just cut it and then release the second half on like Thursday.
Well, I guess people are going to know by the time they're listening to this, unless this is out of the cut.
You gotta farm those views. Like, oh, well, this is too much content for 1 view. You're going to have to give us 2 view. That'll change the ad. That'll increase the ad revenue of the video from 50 cents to $1.
Don't forget to ring the bell.
Don't forget to ring those bells so you can get 17 notifications per day from my channel.
Yes.
Yeah, the bell ringing is
I actively tell people not to do that on my channel.
If you ring a bell on my channel, there better be some kind of like stream only notification because that's the only one you'd want a bell for.
I think you can.
Yeah, YouTube doesn't.
Yeah, I think that would be a thing. I've never rung a single bell.
I'm gonna ring one right now.
I just use the subscriber page correctly.
All personalized or none. What happens if I personalize?
Personalized is how it is by default.
Yeah. I just decide on the fly, like, if I'm going to watch a video or not. And then, like, I'll just be like, I'm not going to watch that one. I just hide it. And then when I refresh, it goes away. And then everything else I add to the currently watching eyes playlist and currently watching ears playlist. Or I think it's called audio. I think it's called eyes and audio is what I called them. It's just like, this is the one I watch when I'm watching the screen. And this is the playlist that I have run when I'm multitasking. And they just kind of filter in that way. But I live on YouTube, so I have the time to like overly curate my subscriptions as they come in.
Yep.
All right, we'll see you all guys next time. You can send your questions into dialoguechoicespodcast@gmail.com. In future episodes, we'll actually answer some. but this
Oh,
one
no,
we had
we didn't do that.
this time we had
No.
a project, so it took up time. And this was only 3/4 of our movie recommendations because
Yes.
Stephanie needs to come in and recommend her 5 movies at some point.
It's going to be another 4 hours.
All right, guys. Next week we're gonna do five video games we recommend. So
This is what happens when you give
work
your,
out.
this is what happens when you give yourself a structured goal, but also are doing a podcast where people just talk.
But
And those
it
two
needs to be
things
five.
fight.
It needs to be 5 games on the Switch.
Oh no, I can't do that.
Yeah,
Switch.
right. That's gonna be hard.
Name
And they can't be Nintendo games.
I was about to say they have to not be
non-Nintendo
published by
games.
Nintendo. That's what
Yeah.
makes it hard. Otherwise, I would just say 5 Nintendo games.
No, you know what? Sorry. Give
Hey,
me the
Blake.
top
Actually,
5. Give me the top 5 Wii U games that weren't made by Nintendo.
I can't.
That's
I
easier.
don't know the top 5. My
Is
top
it?
5 or just the top 5?
Your top 5, whatever your
Oh,
5 favorite Wii U exclusive non Nintendo published games.
Oh, it needs to be exclusive. My
yeah,
God,
absolutely.
I have no
It
idea.
has to be a Wii U only game. Come on.
I have no idea. I've never
Oh, that's
even
like-
seen one.
Do all the ones that have been ported to the Switch get removed from
Nope.
the list?
Yes, they do. Yeah, if they are available on
Oh,
other
God.
consoles, you cannot use them now.
This takes too much research.
I think
Zombie
it's
U.
impossible.
That's it.
That's it.
I
That's
made
the
my
only one.
No, Zombie U's not exclusive.
They have
Oh, did they
no
put it on other
exclusive-
stuff? Oh yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. I
Yeah.
forgot they did.
Almost everything on the Switch got scavenged.
to be fair, poor developers and publishers who
yeah,
have
games
an
are
exclusive for
expensive, and
Wii
the Switch did badly. So they
the
would
U.
Wii
The
quit-
Wii U. The Wii U did.
Yeah,
that.
the Wii U did badly. So almost everything got moved to either the Switch or other platforms eventually.
I can recommend right now before we end because I don't think we ended. Play Darkest Dungeon on the Wii on the new
Switch?
Switch. That's the one. Play Darkest Dungeon because
Why
it's very
on the
good.
Switch?
Because it's the best place to enjoy it. That's my recommendation.
Because the game never fucking ends. So you need
Also,
to,
Keith is afraid of it. Keith is afraid of Darkest Dungeon.
That
at the
sounds like-
time I stopped, it was one of my most played games ever on the channel, and it was just like, wow, start over and play 500 more hours. I'm like, no,
I'm
Jesus
messing
Christ.
with you. It is a very good game, though.
Too much fucking
if you-
game.
if you are into that. But I'm messing with Keith.
Keith has a very anger relationship with Diablo-like games that just kind of don't want to end ever. They just want. You
I
to keep
specifically
playing
liked how
for the
it
rest of
wasn't
your life.
Diablo-like in its original beta version, but then they kept adding infinite treadmills endlessly onto it. The longer it was
And
in
you
development, the more the game just kept adding dozens of hours to its playtime, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
You didn't play the with the expansions. The game gets so difficult and so big with the expansions. It's unbelievable. It's unrecognizable. Honestly,
That game's just exhausting eventually.
it is very exhausting. Yes,
And it's like,
But
it
it
also, when I played it, it had the XCOM problem where, like, in like when we play the two 3D XCOMs that have come out, and I guess there's a spin-off now too. They're really tense and scary and difficult and like tough choices and like sweaty palms and all that for like the first like 10 hours, and then they become a cakewalk. Like at some point, your power like snowballs, and it makes
Darkest Dungeon
it
doesn't do that
trivializes
anymore.
them. It certainly used to, where it's just like
it did. That's why now it's so difficult to get to the end of the
yeah.
game. Last few missions are terrifying.
there was a
It's
long time. There was a long time where every single mission was just tense. You didn't know if anyone was going to survive each mission, but then it snowballs and you just kind of progress and you beat it and it's fine. There was a number of things going on. There's also just irritating structural problems with that game.
Yeah, you definitely had a different reaction to it than me. My last Let's Play that I did of it, it's like 160 something episodes of half an hour each, and it was so tense up until the end. It's so difficult every time. But yeah,
Well, enjoy.
Da, 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 da.
that is a good ending.